I'm soaring, friends. I am Vitaly Portnikov. The Kolishnaya Federal Chancellor of Quarantine Angela Merkel has bowed to the Ukraine of Central Europe, to Poland itself. And the Baltic Ukraine, a kind of visionary for the aggressive policy of Russian President Putin. And they will not continue straight from Russia. It could be one of the reasons for the Russian attack on Ukraine. So the Chancellor tied up with the fact that the coronavirus pandemic was attacked. Isolation of Putin. As well as isolation on the Duma, Merkel was enticed by a serious Pomovin and the Russian leader. Video conferences 4 words, and Merkel could not meet with a real, powerful leader, and happened before the pandemic. And those statements of Angela Merkel with all their instrumentality. In the mirror, it is incomprehensible that Russia's guilt against Ukraine has really begun. Ignorance would cause conflict in such a way. And the main reasons are the vocabulary of Putin himself. There was an adoration of the Russian president to enter the so-called cordons of 1993rd rock. And you can see that Putin, respecting the reference Russian power, with such a rank, minimizing the effect of the so-called washing of 1990 Peru, Kola Russia weather, and the collapse of the Radian Empire. For Putin, that Russian Korov head was at the stake of the Radian Republic at the political refrigerator. To prevent their acceptance to their unions, I extorted the participants of such to unite the pegged Radian republics at once, to attack the political temple expansion of the Russian Federation. So, in that hour of Kola, Angela Merkel was in the Federal Chancellery. She did not actively feed everyone with a sample of the pegged Radian republics of the political refrigerator. So let's say in Ukraine and Georgia, there is a plan for NATO membership at the summit of the Beer Atlantic Alliance in Bucharest. And so Putin has continued, and again the illusion, that the stakes of the Radian Republic will have the topic of the most political refrigerator, and they will need Kola to be able to come from Ukraine to a new one in Russia. Merkel was the leader of the European continent, and advocated the signing of Ukraine's agreements on association with the European Union. Obviously, something Divana did not respect the agreement about the association, frustrating Putin, and up to an acute conflict. Again, the Russian president's body could not have been notified of this yet. I could at once rank and the president with the Donald Trump counselors received in the state, Putin's anxiety in the sphere of Ukraine's sovereignty, and the brothers' readiness, and the fate of political-economical overeating in Europe were removed from the niche, but what problems can Russia have here? And still Russia did not respect Ukraine, Chebuka Insha Kolishnaya Republic reference sovereign power. And I had absolutely no political reality on the continent. Anyway, it's early, Chipizno little simple to a political zit, but to guilt. For Angela Merkel. It's so important that Merkel can become a counselor with an element of Putin streaming and guilt. Readiness, brother and fate in the Kremlin's energy projects. Extremely pro-Gazogin Pivnichny Potok. I am in the stats of an alternative to the Ukrainian gas transportation system. The federal chancellor practically began her stay in the office. she could see the whole element of Moscow's economical Zatokolnost. And counselors, that Putin does not sacrifice interest to Gazprom. I'm also talking about his aggression against Ukraine. For Putin, the Don and Gazprom will provide problems with the Ukrainian gas transportation system. At once I will attack Ukraine. And so effective elements for an economical longing for a neighboring power, so that the Ukrainian would not have any way out with an economical yak capitulate to Moscow. The only practical bucket for that I was completed. There's a beer pot too, and I'll tell you another one for the completion of Angela Merkel. Think about it. She flew to Washington with her ponos and met with the president with Joseph Biden received in the state, not for sanctions against the project. Putin sends messages in his aggression against Kiev and praises the residual decision about the attack on Ukraine. Rich who? Talk about me going to Tilka, Russia to complete alternative routes, so help her on Ukraine's status as an uncontested transit of Russian gas to blame in Europe. I myself am not a one-time writing process texts and speak in the process of imperious interviews. And for German politicians and journalists, I am just as kind to mark the entire era of Angela Merkel. In this it was absolutely without proof, and he and I will decide with such a thesis and on cola. And the president will speak with the results obtained in the state. I will already punish about Ukrainian politicians in whose journalists. And as a result, after 11 hands on the cob of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, we find that Angela Merkel is not what happened. And stay in the federal chancellors. Not having seen Putin's approach to Ukraine yet, I am to the Russian colony of Kama Beauty Rala. Chipizno turned to the Vlad of the Empire. It was not possible for Putin to attack Ukraine forever. When hiring for the mines of the continuation of the exploration of Ukraine, the yak of the independent sovereign power, and the sashes of the option for the European one. After all, it is not the Euro-Atlantic, but the European integration of Ukraine. I also gave up on those politicians in the West. Maybe the counselor will still realistically notify Putin's tasks. After all, it's not up to the Russian president to pass. What does it say about extraordinary people in the West? Moreover, Yak Putin has his own wiring of Russia, and is ready to fight for from Europe. Diakuyu. Finish on the topic of the channel. Social on the Patreon channel helps to develop these resources. The sponsorship function in the